Tonight on GamePoints 385, Joe Blackburn is going to be leaving Bungie at the end of the final shape. Deus Ex is dead as a doornail, and there's just no good news on the horizon, it seems. Everything is on fire in the industry. All of that and more in just a moment. But first, I want everyone to know this is an audience interactive podcast, so if you're watching here live at Twitch TV /GamePoints or later at any video hosting platform of your choice, feel free to comment. Let me know what you guys are thinking about these topics we're going to be going through. And of course, if you like what you see here, subscribe, likes, follow, shares, all that good stuff. You know what us streamers are wanting. Let's go ahead and go into the very first story out the gate here. Not even moments ago, it was announced that Joe Blackburn is going to be leaving the Bungie team at the end of the final shape. Now, for those of you who don't know, Joe Blackburn is the director of Destiny 2, essentially the one game that Bungie kind of has right now. Yes, they're working on Marathon. Yes, they have, I believe, another project in the works somewhere. But for the most part, Destiny 2 only. And their more or less showrunner is going to be leaving the moment the final expansion to Destiny's Light and Darkness saga drops. I'm trying to think of all the terms they use for it because I haven't played the game in quite a while at this point. Kind of lost interest in it, as many people have. But this is, well, let's go ahead and read what he says first, and we'll get into my thoughts on it. Next month, the final shape will be hitting one of its most critical internal milestones, a ritual we call end-to-end place test. This ritual has been a key part of development since Forsaken. Multiple days of consecutive internal play testing that not only generates incredibly valuable closing feedback on everything coming this summer, but also spiritually kicks off a shift toward bug fixing and polish work. Essentially, content complete is what he's saying. Heading into this milestone, I've gotten to play hundreds of hours of the final shape, and the world-class talent here at Bungie has created, quickly becoming one of the things I am most proud of to work on throughout my career. This ritual will be especially meaningful to me personally, as it will also serve as a moment to pass the torch of Destiny 2 game director to the next era of leadership as I head out on a new adventure outside the walls of Bungie. As we hit end-to-end next month, Tyson Green will take the reins as D2 game director. If you follow Bungie for any length of time, you have heard his name. From Halo PvP to the creation of exotic weapons in Destiny 1, Tyson has been a critical part of Bungie's legacy since Myth 2. As deeply invested Guardians before starting here at Bungie, getting to be a part of the Destiny 2 team has been a privilege of a lifetime. I am and will forever remain a lifelong Bungie fan and believer in what the team of its walls are capable of. Still got a lot of time before I pass the torch, but as I look forward to taking the big break from social media, I'll know that I'll see you around the tower. It's going to be great to play Destiny 2 alongside all of you. This has Sefton Hill written all over it. Now, what do I mean by that? Sefton Hill was one of the co-founders of Rocksteady, and last year pieced out of the company. And it is my belief he left before Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League launched because he knew the state it was going to come out. This has shades of that. Now, I could be reading way deeper into it. It's not uncommon for people to leave a company after a big product launches. People want to move on to greener pastures or retire. In the case of Blackburn here, it sounds like he's thinking of doing something else in the games industry. Where he goes, no idea. But it certainly feels like all the wrong people are leaving Bungie. Blackburn's been there since 2020, which isn't as long as Green. I believe it was Green who was taken over, right? Yeah, Tyson Green, who has been there since Myth 2. That would be many, many a year ago. But the problem still remains, and I think Blackburn might see the writing on the wall. I have a unfortunate prediction when it comes to Bungie. I think that within a couple months after the final shape launches, Sony pulls its option to take over management of the company completely, and then you'll see layoffs at Bungie in excess of 30% of the workforce. That is just my gut, but that's kind of what I'm feeling. And the reason why I say it's a Sefton Hill moment is because there are going to be certain people who are in positions of power, and Joe Blackburn certainly would be one of them, who can see the writing on the wall and are going to try to get out while the getting is good. It'd be interesting to see if he ends up with who was the composer they fired recently? Salvatore, I think was his name. It'll be interesting to see if he ends up with him to see what they do together. Working with, I wonder if they'll even get Marty O'Donnell back in there. Although, from what I understand, he is a bit of a tyrant to work with. From what I understand, don't pitchforks down if you're a fan. Man does good work, but I've heard that he is difficult to get along with. I don't. It's never a good sign when a game loses. It's definitely not a good sign when that lead announces their intention to leave before their project is finished. Now, to his credit, seems like he is going to be staying on until the project wraps up and moves into whatever is going to come next in the Light versus Dark saga, which is or Destiny 2 story, because that's getting wrapped up, I should say. But man, there are problems at Bungie, and those problems still have not been resolved. This is a corporate culture issue at Bungie. This is not something that a few layoffs are going to fix, I guess, unless you cut deep enough, which certainly seems to be what they're going to be doing. In my prediction, like I said, prediction, could be wrong, but I think that the round of layoffs that happened at Bungie only a month or so ago plus are going to pale in comparison to what is coming. More than a month, to be fair, but recently is going to pair what's coming. Pale in yeah, pale in comparison to what is coming. I assure you, I can talk. I'd be very nervous if I worked there. Hell, I'd be very nervous if I worked at any gaming industry, which we're going to get into deeper as we go on. But first, I want to bring up this article here from Bloomberg. By the way, the links to everything we talk about will be provided down in the description below. Go read them yourselves. In the case of these Bloomberg articles, there are archive links attached because Bloomberg hides behind a paywall. So keep that in mind. And Schreier hides behind blocking. But I digress. Embracer Group cancels Deus Ex video game. God fucking damn it. This is a cursed franchise. It really is. Now, I'll go ahead and put this out right now. That Deus Ex video game that Embracer was working on, rumor is that it was not the third Jensen story, and that comes from Elias Tofexis himself. He has not been contacted about anything dealing with Adam Jensen's story. He openly said as much. The scuttlebutt that I hear is that it was going to be a remake of the first Deus Ex game, but whatever it is, it's off the table now. Hey there, Rocco. Good to have you. Going to the article itself. Swedish gaming company Embracer Group AB is canceling a video game in the beloved Deus Ex series after 2 years of development and will lay off a number of employees as part of an ongoing initiative to cut costs, according to people familiar with the moves. A couple things I want to bring up. One, it was unannounced. This is all kind of rumor and speculation. But coming from Schreier, you can typically count him as a mostly reliable, albeit biased, source. And their definition of production was mostly pre-production, from what I understand. So I'm sure they had some storyboarding, some concept art, some ideas of the game, but they weren't really in the granular day-to-day of making it, from what I understand. Eidos Montreal, the Canadian-based studio behind the game, will instead focus on an original franchise. The canceled Deus Ex project, which had not been announced, was slated to enter production later this year, said the people speaking anonymously because they're not authorized to talk to the press. Weird that they're going from a known IP to an unknown IP. I that strikes me as odd. I don't know why they would do that, considering that it's just a move you don't see too often. Normally, I'd be down to see new IP, but fuck, give me a Deus Ex, please. Or, haha, what could have happened is that Deus Ex could be sold. The reason why they canceled this game is because they're looking to sell the license to someone. I would love to see it go to Arcane. I think Arcane can do some excellent shit with it. I would love to see it go to Night Dive, the guys that did the excellent System Shock reboot. Where's Warren Spector at these days? I know Harvey Smith is still with Arcane. But yeah, that could be something that might be something we should consider. That the reason why they canceled the game is because they're going to sell the IP, hopefully to someone that can do something with it and something good. Microsoft might be up there, up that alley, considering that they have a lot of that talent that are used to open world, the immersive, I shouldn't say open world, immersive sim genre with NXL, Obsidian, and Arcade all working in the same umbrella. That could be cool, although this is just spitballing. Let's take a look at chat here. Amazon's probably going to buy it. I don't think so. I think Amazon is going to be heavily pulling out and divesting of video games. I think you see that with their recent layoffs, especially throughout Twitch. Could be wrong. Once again, just theories. All we have, right? What's frustrating right now is no one has announced what's coming up, really. We have very little information on the future games that are coming out for this generation. Some of that might change in a day or two. We'll get back to that in a second. And we don't even know if some of these studios are going to be around in another year, the way the axe has been swinging. So we are in a period of high uncertainty when it comes to the future of games. Hell, you might even know something is coming and the next day gets the axe, much like this Deus Ex game here. Speaking of Eidos Montreal, while we're here, and layoffs, unfortunately, they are not immune to the Embracer Group fuck up when the Saudi Arabian deal went boom. They have been laying off mass people across numerous studios, and Eidos Montreal is getting hit with 97 of them on their own. So the Deus Ex game aside, that is just a game, but these are people's livelihoods going bye-bye, so heart goes out to them, of course. Best of luck to all of you. I do know that part of the world is somewhat flush with game developers, so hopefully you can find something relatively quickly. However, with the vast amount of talent that has been unceremoniously dumped upon the job market, it is going to be rough. And not to even talk about if you're a new game developer fresh out of college trying to look for a job, you're suddenly competing with hundreds, if not thousands, of people who have like 2 decades of experience. It's bad. It's bad out there. No, I don't think they'll do that. Uh, I doubt it. Doubt it. We'll see. We'll see as we go on. Anyways, now we need to talk about how the fact there is just no good news at all. Those were the two like happy stories. The rest of this just gets depressing as we continue going on. So going to The Verge next here. Microsoft lays off 1,900 Activision Blizzard and Xbox employees. This is a direct result of the merger, by the way, to be 100% clear here. That's not working. Because a lot when you merge two companies together, you have redundancies, and a lot of that is getting pulled from people. Just you have two people that do the same job, and you only need one. Bye bye. This was going to happen regardless if the economy was in the shitter or not. So this was somewhat to be expected. To the article from The Verge. Microsoft is laying off 1,900 employees at Activision Blizzard this week. When Microsoft primarily laying off roles at Activision Blizzard, some Xbox and ZeniMax employees will also be impacted by the cuts. The cuts work out to roughly 8% of the overall Microsoft gaming division that stands still around 22,000 employees in total. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know that I typically deliver sunshine news every week, but it is what it is there, guys. It's going to be a bad one. Alongside the layoffs is Blizzard president Mike Ibarra has decided to leave the company. He said the following. As many of you know, or rather, Matt Booty, a Microsoft Game Content Studio president, said the following. As many of you know, Mike previously spent more than 20 years at Microsoft, and now that he has seen the acquisition as Blizzard president, he has decided to leave the company, and quote, I'm sure he was given a nice little severance to boot his ass out, as it were. Yeah, it's an unfortunate name. Microsoft plans to name a new Blizzard president next week. We have that. We'll get back to her in a second. Alan Adam, Blizzard's chief design officer, is also leaving the company. Once again, one of those things where a big move happens and you have a lot of people at the top kind of cashing out. They can read the writing on the wall. They might not like where Blizzard is going to be going. And with who they have replacing Mike Ibarra, they might be correct. Her resume, it bothers me. We'll get into details on that in a second. Also, because if 1,900 jobs wasn't enough to be a sad story, Blizzard's previously announced survival game has also been canceled as part of these changes. Matt Moody says Microsoft will be, quote, shifting some people working on it to several promising new projects Blizzard has in the early stages of development, end quote. Now, I believe that survival game has been in development for about 6 years, but the vast majority of that was, like we were talking about the Deus Ex game, storyboarding, planning, some early conceptual ideas, what we're going to make this game. But active development really didn't start in earnest on it until 2022. Blizzard time. And I don't know if we should use the term Blizzard. The heart of that studio has been replaced over the past decade through Activision's, let's call it what it is, interference. And anyone who was really associated with that company has now left. So we have that ship of Theseus question, right? We all know what that is. We know memes. We've seen that going around a year or so back. Is it really Blizzard anymore? Much like you can ask that about a lot of things. Is it really BioWare anymore, for example? The other game company that I like to use. No, it's not. They're completely separate companies now. And Blizzard used to be run by people that had very they knew development. They were helping to make the games. Which brings me to who they have replacing Mikey Barr, which admittedly Mikey Barr is more of a suit than a developer anyway, so I don't want to gild his lily too much. But the person they have taken over, former Call of Duty GM Johanna Faries, this here from Video Game Chronicle, appointed as Blizzard's new president. Now, why am I concerned? Well, I am concerned because she was the executive that was the head of Call of Duty esports. And that is what she, I'm sorry, getting a lot of myself. She is the former Call of Duty general manager. So the person that was running Call of Duty for a while, you know, that franchise that seems to be getting ran into the ground, or at least we all like to say it is, it's still decently popular, but it's really missing something, has now been put in charge of Blizzard. And her role before Call of Duty and joining Activision through their esports was the NFL. She's not a game developer. She is a suit. She is a marketing person. As, once again, admittedly, Mikey Barra was mostly as well. But Blizzard used to be run by people who knew what needed to go in making games. For the past few years, the people in the decision making at Blizzard have been replaced by developers, or they've replaced their developers with bean counters, marketing specialists. This isn't good. I don't have much hope for Faries to right the ship at Blizzard. If anything, Blizzard is going to become even more soulless than it already has been right now, in my opinion. I do hope to be wrong. But I don't have much hope for that studio anymore. Overwatch is a joke. Diablo 4 is fine. It could have been worse, but it could be way better. StarCraft as a franchise is dead. Whatever their new IP they were going to be working on, if that survival crafting game is now gone, so they're now back to their big three. World of Warcraft seems more and more boring every year it's out. And I don't see how appointing essentially a marketer in the role of Blizzard president is going to be changing that. Because what is going to happen, what happens when you... It's a double-edged sword. When you have a developer running a studio, you tend to fall victim to things like design creep, or over-promising, under-delivering, or scope creep kicks in. You tend to run wild off your dreams and need someone there to kind of pull you back down to earth. When you're run by a suit, when you're run by a corporate stooge, when you're run by a bean counter, you go for the most mass appeal, marketable strategy that you can. Which is why when we see games coming out of studios run by these people, they all look cookie cutter. You know what I'm talking about. Suicide Squad has something similar going on. Weird RPG-like mechanics that kind of bite off Destiny or Division in Suicide Squad's case. Cartoony, Fortnite-y look as they try to capture that in there. It's one of those things where it's geared to the lowest common denominator. It's the Fortniteization stuff, which Blizzard was already kind of suffering from as they started to adopt what I like to call the Cal art style of video games. You know the one that I'm talking about. That kind of animated, kind of cel shaded look. Overwatch is dripping in it. Fortnite is dripping in it. The upcoming Foam Stars what's the game that's ripping off? Splatoon are dripping in it. Everything has that oversaturated, once again, Fortnite look. Now, I get 20 years ago, everything was brown and grimy and dirty because everything was trying to emulate Call of Duty. But god damn it, please, for the love of God, just give me a different art style than that. It is the Cal arts of video games, and I'm so tired of it. But the reason why so many studios have it is because games have it is because their studios are run by marketers, bean counters, by people who look at the investors and go, I'm going to make you a game that is like Fortnite right over there, which makes in millions of dollars. And people are like, yes, I want that, I want that, I want that. Is Faries going to be responsible for all that? No, because that was already coming in place in Blizzard. But the reason why I am not excited for this hire is because she is not going to right the ship. She is at best going to maintain status quo, and status quo at Blizzard fucking sucks right now. Let's turn to chat here real quick. It's like the ship analogy. If you replace the ship, that is what the ship of Theseus is. We all know that analogy, the ship analogy, where is it the same ship if you replace every part of the ship? Or like Leonard Skinner, where there might be one original member left. Is it still the same band? Yeah, you're on the right track. You're on the right track there. This reeks of diversity hire all over it. I don't know if I would go that far. What this reeks of is Microsoft putting in people who are good at, well, like I said, bean counting and marketing, which is what the NFL is. Not the players, not the teams, but the actual organization. That is what that is. And to be fair, she didn't come from the NFL and immediately went into this position here. She did go through Call of Duty. She was running Call of Duty esports, and then she was becoming like essentially the general manager of the Call of Duty franchise. But look what Call of Duty is at now. Yeah, it stabilized. The bleed seems to have stabilized, and Warzone's been a decently big hit for it. But when's the last time anyone was ever really excited for a Call of Duty game? It's kind of fallen to the place that Madden is now. People just, in my opinion, people just get it every year because it's just what you do. These people have been trained to buy Call of Duty every year. Oh, it's November. Time to buy Call of Duty. Yeah, I heard it sucks, but it's Call of Duty. I'm gonna fucking buy Call of Duty, and then they bitch about it for a year and get the new one, hoping that might be better. That is what you're going to be getting from Blizzard, which is admittedly where they were kind of at. She's just not going to rock that boat. She's going to tighten up a little bit. She will cut some fat, but you're not going to see any changes, I don't think, at Blizzard. For those of you who are looking forward to hopefully going back to the good old days, not in the immediate future anyway. All right. Let's do these layoffs. First up, we go to Eurogamer. Ruiner developer Reikon Games lays off half of its studio. That's going to be about 60 to 70 people, equating to about 56% of the company. Those layoffs happened on January 23rd. So last week. Go here to GameSpot with Embracer-owned studio Black Forest Games has laid off 50% of its staff. Black Forest Games are a subsidiary of THQ Nordic, which in turn are owned by Embracer, and know the problems that Embracer are going through. And they were known for making Destroy All Humans and Destroy All Humans 2 remakes. So this is about 50% of that staff right there. So about 50 or so people, considering last time that I heard, they had about 110 employees. Game Informer for this one. Outriders studio People Can Fly lays off more than 30 employees. People Can Fly, the guys that made Outriders, that was that 2001 game that was... I didn't care too much for it, but it had a little bit of a cult following. but not enough to actually make any money on it. If you recall some other previous stories we were talking about it, I think it broke even or even ended up eating it just a little bit. But they're laying off about 30 employees themselves. And if the layoffs weren't bad enough, you also have the Final Fantasy 14 live action TV series getting chopped, mainly because of COVID. Now, in 2019, in this article here from PC Gamer, by the way, in 2019, a live action version of Final Fantasy XIV, one of a critically acclaimed MMORPG with an expanded free trial, you know the one, was in the works. Announced as a collaboration between Sony Pictures Studio and Hive Mind, who are the people behind The Witcher, more on that in a second, seemed like a natural pairing. Unfortunately, it looks like that particular project is dead in the water, according to the Hive Mind's co-founder, Dinesh Samdasani on Twitter. When he asked for an update on the project, he responded with, dead. He continued to write. He continues to write. We look for... sorry. We took around a fantastic pilot script by Len Lustig and Jake Thompson, along with multiple seasons planned. They built on our showrunners, but got rejected across the board. The size and scale needed to do it proved too much for anyone to want to risk. Amazon came closest. Jake Thornton, scriptwriter on project, also noted that the project's failure was a result of COVID, unfortunately. We took it out just as studios began to zip up their purse strings. That's right. Another project gone. And while this isn't something that was being developed and led to the loss of multiple jobs, this is something that never got into the ground, thus preventing those jobs from materializing in the first place. It doesn't help that the company that Hivemind, when they started pitching this, Witcher was hot. It's not so much anymore. The Witcher TV show, I don't want to say is hated, but it certainly doesn't have the same cachet it once did a few years back. And they're right about COVID. You have movies being completely finished. There's a one from Holly Berry recently that just wrapped up. They're done filming it. It's a complete movie and it'll never come out. Because it is easier for them to write the entire thing off as a loss for the tax write-offs on it than to actually release it into an uncertain environment. You're going to be seeing this happening a lot, which is what makes me worried about the future of games. Not just the studio layoffs, not just the canceled projects, but the amount of shit that is not going to be getting greenlit right now. We had a banger year, 2023. We had, it was almost too crowded. In fact, I would say it was absolutely too crowded as all these great games and projects were coming out. And I think that's it for this generation. Yes, I'm not saying that you won't have some big stuff coming out, some big exclusives, a couple more big titles. But between now and the next generation of PlayStation and Xbox, I don't think we'll see another year like that. I think the cannon has been fired, the load has been blown, and now it's just coasting on the fumes until whatever the next generation is in 2027, 2028, maybe 2026. I think the reason why you haven't heard too much about future plans from Sony and Microsoft, and hell, even Nintendo, I'll even throw Nintendo in this mix, isn't because they're playing their cards close to their chest because they want to keep people in the dark and they don't want to tell anyone about it 6 months before it comes out, which is what I would love to see. No. I think their motivation is different. I think their motivation is that they realize they don't have anything. I think their motivation is that they realize, okay, we used to have 4 big exclusive games a year and backed by a myriad of smaller titles and then in turn backed by a bunch of third-party studios producing bangers. I think they look at their calendars, go, oh, we have 1 game a year and maybe 2 or 3 indies that are exclusive to us. And Ubisoft is only doing 2 games this year, and EA will do 2 rather than, say, 5 or 6. I think we're looking on the edge of a massive drought when it comes to content. And when you don't have that money coming in, you have to start making cuts, which means other games get whacked, which means stuff gets canceled, which means someone who might have been making a battle royale and could have been like 70% of the way done and they haven't announced it yet went, do we really want to launch a battle royale game when the genre seems to be kind of going away? Hell, if you weren't making an extraction shooter starting 2 years ago, you're fucked when it comes out. Talking to you, Ubisoft, we heard some rumors that you have extraction shooters lined up to launch in 2026. Are you fucking kidding me? That genre is going to be nowhere near as popular as it is right now. I don't want to say dead, but that's where the concern is. You're not just seeing these cancellations happening in video games. You're seeing them happen in TV, in tech products, across the board. Some movies. The problem with games that's unique to games is that a lot of that stuff can be developed in a few years. Games at this point have grown so unwieldy, they take 5 to 7 years from initial thought in the head to disc in your hand to actually come to fruition. Who the fuck in this economy is going to greenlight anything that won't see a return for 7 years? Fucking kidding me? I could take that money and put it in the bank and get 3 or 4% interest on it and not have it just disappear unless the bank crashes, but that's at that point you're looking at bigger problems. I digress. You're going to have projects get canceled. You're going to have less projects greenlit, which means these staffs, which were loaded up and ramped up for COVID, and we got 2023, that banger year, suddenly half those people don't need that job anymore. Now, I don't mean to phrase that in a careless and crass way, but if you're not working on anything, then goodbye. So that's what you're seeing with some of these layoffs. Some of the other layoffs are just general economic malaise. And what's going to happen then is the company's bringing in less money, which means they're going to greenlit even less games. It means less people working on projects, less money coming in. It means you got to have layoffs. It means you have less people to work on things. It means you cancel more shit. You see the problem here. It's not good. It is not even January yet, and I have gone from reporting on dozens to a few hundred getting laid off per week last year to thousands getting laid off this year. We're only at the end of January. Microsoft, Amazon, Riot, I think Ubisoft was at Twitch, Discord. Goddamn. I expect WB Rocksteady to get hit with layoffs here very soon, within a month or two, once Suicide Squad's back end support gets wrapped up for at least the immediate future. I'm expecting Destiny to get hit with major layoffs once the final shapes out. Not Destiny, Bungie. This is not good. And I hate that every week it feels like I'm ending the show kind of shit. But I am telling you right now, it's going to get significantly worse. Now, I know I just spent the past 5 or 10 minutes going on about how we have no idea what's coming up, but maybe Sony is going to pull the curtain back a little bit on that. They did announce a state of play tomorrow. Wednesday, January 31st at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I will be streaming it here, so come on by and come watch it with me. What's going to be in it? We don't know all that much, but we have an idea of some of the things on there. We know it's going to be 40 minutes long. They're going to have updates on both Stellar Blade and Rise of Ronin. I would imagine possibly even release dates for those two games, as well as things about PlayStation 5 and PSVR 2 in 2024 and beyond. So we might actually finally get some news about 2025. I'm not expecting too much, maybe a game or two here or there. Things I would expect to see: Silent Hill 2. I think it's time for some announcement on that. I'm hearing rumors that that Silent Hill lost signal or missing signal or whatever the hell that thing was might get shadow dropped tomorrow. I'm sure we'll see something about Helldivers 2 and Final Fantasy Remake, since both of those are coming up close. Perhaps Horizon Forbidden West complete on PC. As far as what else might be coming, I have no idea. Not at all. I doubt we'll see anything from God of War. I doubt we'll see anything like big like that. I do fully expect this to be mostly a third party op. Hell, we might even see, because they do love to announce this stuff at Sony stuff. It feels what the next thing from Resident Evil might could be interesting. Anyways, that's just spitballing. We will see tomorrow. I will be taking a look at it at that time. And with that is the final story and thus the end of the show itself. Thank you all for showing up. I do appreciate it. I do stream this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time right here at twitch.tv/GamePoints. Can't join us live like many of you do. Feel free to catch us over at any myriad of video hosting platforms, Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, etc. Regardless of where you watch at, please feel free to like, follow, subscribe, share, bits, all that good stuff, depending on where you're at. If you like what you see here, of course. Comments especially. I want to know what you guys feel about these topics on hand. Please let me know. Just try to keep it civil, or let me rephrase. Keep it internet civil. Playful jab here or two is nice, but let's not do anything that's going to get me yeeted off of you, shall we? Thank you all for showing up. I will be back this Tuesday with more news. We're talking about that state of play for certain. Hopefully, for the love of God, we actually have something positive to report on. That's not just this nonstop procession of horrendous news stories. But until then, you all take care. Be seeing you.